Welcome everybody to today's webinar, What's New in VAPS, VPS and VJS for Dynamics 365 Business Central. My name is Martin and I'm CEO and one of the owners of NETRONIC software here from Germany. I'm actually pretty happy to run this webinar today. I wish we would have done it a little bit earlier, but nevertheless, some good things take a while. So I see that there is already a question. No question, sorry for that. So as always, this webinar will be recorded and we will share the recording today, latest tomorrow on our YouTube channel, and we will send you a link to this recording, I would say latest on Monday morning. So you're on mute. If you have a question, then please ask this via the GoToWebinar chat pane, and I will answer it straight away. If I'm on PowerPoint slides, if I'm doing demos, I might not see that you asked the question, then I will answer it after the demo or at the end of the webinar. So every question that is related to VAPS, VPS, and VJS will be definitively answered in this webinar. And if you have a question on football, what the Americans call soccer, then you can ask the question as well, and I will answer this as well. So no kidding or no more kidding anymore. So let's talk about the latest releases or the latest things that we did for VAPS especially, and VPS and VJS. And like the release that we are just like finalizing, especially for the VAPS, is going to be or is very huge, and I'm excited to share with you a couple of really cool new capabilities that our Visual Advanced Production Scheduler going forward will have, so that you can provide additional scheduling value to your customers, or if you're a customer using Business Central, then I know that there are folks out there who have been waiting for some of those functionalities for quite some time. So be prepared to see a couple of really cool things today. As always, this is the slide that we are proud of. I share this in all What's New webinars. We are in the process of constantly releasing new product version every quarter for the VPS, for the VJS, and for the VAPS. Most of the things that we do actually follow ideas, suggestions, requests, comments that we get working with you, our partners and customers. Some of the things that we build is something that we figure out on our own that we can do it, but most of our backlog list and most of our development work is actually driven by your ideas, your comments, your thoughts, your feedback. And so please, if you work with our products, or if you look at our products, if you test our products, if you play around with our products, and if you come across something that you feel, hey, this could be done better, this could be done differently, or here's something which really would nicely fit into those products, then please let us know. We are not only willing to listen, but we are keen hearing your feedback, and we will discuss your feedback. We will give you feedback on your feedback. And oftentimes, actually, the feedback that we get from you, our customers and partners, then turns into what we call a work item list on our roadmap. And then we release a new version every quarter. And at some point of time, you might see actually your ideas, your thoughts turning into product functionality. Every time we release a version, we go to Microsoft, we send it to AppSource so that it gets certified there, and only after we got it approved from Microsoft for AppSource. So once the version of the VPS, VJS, and VJS VAPS is available on AppSource, then we will upload the respective version to our partner portal so that you can take it from there for every on-prem deployment. With the versions that I'm showing you today, we're in the process of making the packages ready for AppSource, so they are not yet in AppSource and they are not yet have been sent to AppSource. So what I'm showing you today is kind of not hot off the press, but hot of DevOps, so to say. So it's really hot from development team, or from very extensive testing that we did over the last couple of weeks, actually. So most likely with the current VAPS release, we did the most extensive testing process we've ever done, because we kind of did a surgery on the heart of the VAPS, which is the scheduling engine itself. And so we just finished a very, very extensive testing phase. And hence we are preparing the packages for app source now. We have the plan to send them to Microsoft for app source recertification tomorrow, so that we expect to have the new versions being available and being rolled into the Microsoft app source services maybe on Monday or on Tuesday, so that early next week the versions and the functionality that I show you today should be also available for every on-premise installation. So what I show you now is not available in App Source today. It is not available from our partner portal today. We are finishing it. We will send it to App Source certification tomorrow, so it should be ready for the market beginning of next week. So this is our current time planning. As I said, we did a lot of huge things to the VAPS, and when I look at those things that when it comes to the VAPS, and the focus of the October release was the VAPS, then the guiding theme was closing the gap, and this means closing the gap between what the VAPS can do and what you can set up in standard Business Central, and what would you sometimes also expect from a scheduling product to support. And we have actually done a lot of gap closing here. So there were some gaps, like you can see on the slide, and this thing here fits in here, I think not perfectly, but closes a lot of the gaps, and makes the way from Business Center to scheduling much smoother than, even more smoother than it was in the past already. So but before I go into the VAPS and in showing which gaps we close, let's briefly look at VPS and VJS. So for the VJS, we have the capability now to make the table text. So what you see in the left-hand table, where you see the resources and where you see the job and the planning line, this now can be configured in a way that this is multi-line, so that you have multiple lines showing there. I will not show this today. I will focus on VPS and VAPS. And for the VJS, we added also a couple of events and objects. So we enriched our API. And these events and objects are all centered around filtering. So we had a lot of customers, and we have partners who said, okay, we had partners who said our customer does not want to open the VJS from the VJS menu and then define a filter on certain project, but our customers, they want to work in a way that they can go to the job list in Business Central, filter the job list, and then have 5 jobs in those lists, and then press a button and say open all jobs that are included in this list with the VJS, or open the VJS being filtered on those 5 jobs that I have in the list. And so this is now possible. This is now possible via an extension that you as a partner would develop based on our VJS API. So in that case, you would need to work with the new functions for the data filter. So you would take those 5 jobs from this job list, pass them to the API, and then we would directly, and then the VJS would open, and the data filter would be set via API rather than via our dialog. Like we have the data filter options, we have the same for the view filter. And then the interesting thing is we also enhance the API actually in a way that you not only can say, hey, I want to load just these jobs into the VJS, but you can say, I want to load these jobs, but nevertheless, I want to see all resource allocations in the VJS, so that you have it filtered on the jobs that you're working on, but you see how the resources are utilized overall. So this is, I think, quite cool new enhancements on the API. I won't show them today. Maybe we do some sample coding or sample webinar with this later this year, but we will definitively document this properly over the next couple of maybe weeks under help.netronic.com, where you have all the where you find then on the VJS all the API documentation, and maybe we'll also post a blog about what you can do with these API enhancements there. When it comes to the VPS, we have only like 2 lines. One is minor. When you have operations that are finished, so when you have production order routing lines with the status finished, then in the past they only had this black underscore, the black progress bar. Now we also grade them out so that you can like grade them out in quotes. You will see what I mean with grade them out. We made them more we grayed out the color a bit so that they are no longer as prominently visible as they were before. And then there is one other line item, and this is only one line item, but I think it's bold. We played around with this a lot. We made a lot of experiments, and finally we decided to bring this into the VPS first, because the VPS is the drag and drop scheduling tool, and this is the capability to actually select multiple production order routing lines, so multiple operations, and then move them in one go. And we will do some further experiments before we bring this functionality into the VAPS. Yes, I know people are waiting for this for the VAPS as well, but the VAPS is more about automated scheduling, whereas the VPS is more about only about manual scheduling. By the way, I just mentioned this here for and I should have mentioned it earlier. I mentioned it here on the slides again. Last year we changed our development process in a way that we follow Microsoft's modern life cycle. So when Microsoft developed new functionality, they always develop the new functionality only for the most recent Business Central version. So when they built in new functionality in the last 6 months, they built it just for Business Central version 21. We are not as strict as Microsoft, but we need to be a bit strict there as well. So the new features that I will show you today, both for VAPS and VPS and also for the VJS, they will only be available for Business Central 21, 20, and 19. So we cannot afford anymore to make it backward compatible for 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, or 14, just madness, given that we have then 3 products and whatever, 9 Business Central versions or so, or 8. This would be just madness because Microsoft continues to keep breaking changes. So everything that I present to you today can be only used if you're in Business Central 21, 20, and 19. So I mean, this is the general consensus in the market that it is the best to have or to always work on a current version or on a very current version, that you regularly update your environment, that you regularly go with the latest and brightest. And this is like the way of Microsoft is pushing us as partners, is pushing you as customers. And this is also what is best practice, to not let your system deteriorate over time because you don't update it. So we follow this path because not only we must, but we believe that this is the right thing for you as a user to do. So with this, let's actually look how we can multi-select things and multi-move, and how finished operations are grayed out. So let's go from my slides to the first demo, and we look at the VPS. Let me get let me get back into my environment again. Here we go, and let's get the VPS up and running. And I will work with the same data in the VAPS later on, so that you are then familiar with them a bit. And by the way, I will not explain the product from all the details, but I will just share with you what is new today. So I have like a sample database set up with like 3 work center groups: machining, finishing, subcontracting, a few subcontractors here. In finishing, I have, and I loaded them here, I have a group assembly and a quality control, and I have some machine centers here that you see they don't have any operations anymore, because actually I moved them all to the work center, and I also blocked them. So in the VAPS, I will start them with a filter where we don't see those machine centers anymore, but here we see them, but nevertheless. In machining, I have a couple of work centers with drilling, milling, turning, sawing, welding, and then there are a couple of work centers. So now I said we can select multiple production orders and move them in one go. So I would expect a multi-move to work on selecting one, then pressing the control key and clicking again. Okay, it doesn't work. Then the other option of selecting multiple production order or multiple operations in one go would be to press the left mouse wheel and then draw a rectangle. This does also not work. So how do we do the multi-selection? Well, we do it as I just explained this, but you have to switch the multi-select functionality on, because by default, and for all the users that have been working with the VPS so far, there was no multi-select, and we didn't want to kind of change the standard behavior, but we want to give you the option to decide for now going forward. I also want to kind of multi-select operations and then move them in one go. So the first thing, if you want to use this function, go to Action, go to Administration, go to Setup, and then there is the selection type single. This is default. This is how the VPS worked so far. So this is the default setting for all of you right now after you upgraded or updated your version. Then you can say, okay, I actually not only want to do single, but I want a multiple. And with a multiple, we actually make a differentiation. We allow you to select multiple production orders, multiple operations as you want. This is only recommended, and I say this very clearly, this is only recommended if all your routings just consist of one routing step. If your routings consist of multiple routing steps, then I will always pledge and always recommend for just selecting multiple on single capacity, because otherwise you can really do mad things. So I switch this on and say, okay, I select multiple operations on a single capacity, and this is closed, and let's say, okay, there is drilling, and I have this firm plan, and remember, orange is released, dark blue is firm planned, and light blue is planned. So I have all those firm planned production orders, so I want to select them and move them somewhere for whatever reason. So I press the left mouse wheel, I keep it pressed, and I start drawing a rectangle, and you see all those guys getting selected. This is what I couldn't do before. So now they are all selected, and let me undo this. I can also press the control key and select this guy and this guy and that guy and that guy. Okay, in my case, so you can select them if they are like as here positioned one after each other, or you can say I want this guy and that guy and that guy, so you can select some of them, and then I could move them now in one go to the other drilling machine or whatever. But in my case, I want to do it with these rectangle. I really love this rectangle, and I cannot operate it while I'm talking. So now they are selected, and now what I want to do is just move this entire block, whatever, starting in week 10. So now I take this and move this to here. You see, I grab them all, and then I take them and I move them here. And now let's see what happens. It takes a bit because you have to calculate the impact, and then I say, oh, there are one or more reservation conflicts. The position of all selected and scheduled operations will be cancelled. Well, bad luck, Martin, and good luck, Martin, because with one of the previous versions, we actually put a lot of sophistication into the VPS when it comes to dealing with reservation entries. And we managed to kind of keep this sophistication active and in place, also when we select multiple operations and move them in one go. So in my case here, let's go to administration and set up again. When I drill down here and see conflict handling of reservations, I say warn and reject. So if I do something that violates a reservation with single move, with multi-move, I get a warning, and this is rejected by the VPS. This is functionality we used to have in the product for quite some while, but now it becomes really powerful with this multiple move and multiple select. Well, in my case, and just for demo purposes, I say, well, I don't care about reservations. I just don't care. If there are reservations, I don't care. I want to move things around as I want to move. I know best, and I'm the planner. And reservations should be taken care of by somebody else or whatever. We don't work with reservations, and if they're reservations, it is good if we ignore them. So I can just say, okay, I want to ignore reservation issues, and then I can make any change, and then I can write it back, and then the reservations, whatever, get lost and canceled. But I'm the planner, I know best. So now I have this on none. I still have multiple on single capacity, and now I do my rectangle. They are all selected. I move them, and now see what happens. They all get moved. So we calculate the impact. No issue. And you see also the successors got moved, right? So it's not only those operations that get moved, but also the successors got moved. And of course, I could take them and move them in one go to another machine. No problem. In my case, I just made it in a way that I only allow the selection of production on one machine. So I can't do this, that it will always only select those where I start. So this is multi-select and multi-move in the VPS. It is a super powerful new functionality, and I especially like how this works in combination with all those reservation handling settings that we have. So it definitively will ease your life when you do drag and drop scheduling, because you can just select them. You can select all of them that you want to move, and then you want to move them. And then, of course, the successors get moved if you have switched on that the successors get moved. And if you have this switched on, and if you have also switched on that you want to kind of listen to the reservations that they don't get violated, then you get this warning. So I would say this is pretty cool, pretty powerful. So that's on the VPS. So let me go back to the slides again. And now let's talk about the VAPS and about what gaps we closed. And mostly the gaps that were closed were the gaps towards standard Business Central, but there's also one gap that we closed compared to the other products that we have. So let's complete this picture. We talked about multi-selection and multi-move of the VPS. I didn't, by the way, let me go back here. My bad. Finish operation gray out. Just want to show you quickly. Let's take this half minute to complete this. You see, this here is finished. It has this black underscore, but it is not shown as bold as the other release that are still not finished. And you can see the difference quite good here. This one is finished. It's kind of grayed out. This one still running, so not grayed out. This one starting yesterday, going into today, finished already. So we are a little bit ahead of time here. We could pull forward, move forward things. So this is just one thing that I forgot to show you in the demo. So we talked about the multi-selection, the multi-move. Just one line item, super big, and we have the finished operations get grayed out. It just makes it visually more easy to differentiate things. And we spoke about the API changes to the VJS. So now let's talk about the VAPS. So first of all, one big topic, scheduling with finite capacity larger one, in quotes, in brackets, finally. So when we launched the VAPS, we decided not to build everything in one go. I mean, Rome wasn't built in one day, as it goes, as a saying here in Germany. And so, like, good things take a while. We said we need to start somewhere. So we made some assumptions, and over time now we are like removing assumptions and hence limitations of the VAPS. And one of the assumptions we made initially is, okay, if we start with finite capacity scheduling integrated into Business Central, let's start with the assumption that every finite capacity is one. So every work center is treated as it has a capacity of one, and every machine center is treated as it would have a capacity of one. So every work center being able on one production order at a time, and every machine center being able at working at one production order at a time. So this actually was tough enough to build, and it provides already a huge value to our customers. We got a lot of great feedback. We see a lot of great use cases being supported with this automatic scheduling that we built on this finite capacity scheduling logic. But of course, we were aware that in the way we built, in the way we had this assumption, we had a gap to some standard Business Central settings, because On the work center card or on the machine center card, you can set a capacity. So let me go back to Business Central. Let me go to my work center, and I have my assembly work center, and I put it up with a capacity of 4. Okay, this is standard Business Central setting. In the past, you could put in any value here. Independent of what you put in, we always treated this as if this would have a capacity of 1. So now we remove this constraint. So now we actually can plan against a finite capacity of 4. And this is true for the work center and the machine center capacity setting. Then on the work center and on the machine center, and let me go to the machine center now. Let me go to the machine center. On the machine center card, we know, and let me go to welding number 5. On the machine center card, we have the efficiency, and in the past, you could put in any value here. We always dealt with the machine center in a way and the work center in a way it is as if it would have the efficiency of 100%. Now we remove this limitation. So now if you put in an efficiency value on the work center card or on the machine center card, we take this into account. And by the way, you need not only to put it here, but you need to roll out the calendar additionally. So if you increase the efficiency, if the efficiency no longer is 50%, but 80%, then you have to roll out the calendar again. Just to have said this. So we now enable scheduling against the finite capacity of larger one, taking into account the work center capacity setting, the machine center capacity setting, the work center efficiency setting, and the machine center efficiency. Plus, on the production order routing line, so let me take whatever, one production order, let me take a random firm planned production order that I have in my system. Let's take this. This looks random enough. On the production order routing lines, you have the concurrent capacities. In the past, independent what you put in here, we always treated it as if there would be a 1. And also with the current release, we are taking away this assumption from the VAPS. So now if you put in a concurrent capacity that makes sense, given the capacity setting of your work and machine center, then we take this into account. So, and with this was one big building block of the release, is that we say, okay, we want to enable the scheduling with finite capacity larger one, and hence we have to close the gap to the Business Central standard settings, capacity, efficiency, concurrent capacity. And this is all done. And this was what I called initially like the surgery at the heart of the VAPS, because the VAPS is built on the finite capacity scheduling engine, and we had not to rebuild this finite capacity scaling engine, but we had to significantly change it. And hence we wanted to make sure that it continues to produce the same results if all these values are set to 1 as it was before, but now also can deal with any kind of strange setting that is set there, plus any strange combination of strange settings, plus one of the other things that we already have in the product, like the queue time, like the send ahead and stuff like this. Another gap that we close to standard Business Central, this is on the EMAT, on the earliest material availability side of things. So far, we calculated the EMAT just, in quotes, on the production order line level. However, we know that there are routing links in Business Central, with which you can say this particular material is only required at operation step number 5, whatever. And in the past, we ignored this, and we took all the components required for this production order line, calculated a date when they would be available, and said the latest of this date is the earliest material availability date for this production order line. Now, if you work with routing links, and if you say this particular item is only needed for whatever, routing step 5, then we take this into account and we calculate the EMAT on routing line level. So this is something we will not look into today. I think this alone is complex enough to require an additional or a new webinar. Let me take a note on this, by the way. Actually, this is a webinar just on the earliest material availability, how this works, what it does, and so on and so forth. I will do this in late November, early December, promised. Then we didn't stop there, but we made some further functions. So another gap that we closed is the VAPS didn't have a data filter, but the VPS and the VJS had. So we built a data filter into the VAPS, also quite a big thing. We made the table definition customizable, as you know this from the VPS and the VJS. We have something that is the extended symbol functionality. I will show this little thing, but pretty useful. We have the capability to copy a simulation. We added some functionality on the availability information on the item card. So from the item card, you now also can drill down into EMAT information coming from the VAPS. And another gap that we closed is we figured out that we could have done better in terms of taking into account demand dates and delivery dates coming from a reservation entry. So we refined the EMAT calculations. I think I will deal with this in the EMAT webinar that I will do end of November, beginning of December. And like in the VPS, the Finnish operations get grayed out now. Plus the EMAT calculation now is faster because we made some performance improvement there. As I said in the last webinar, in the last release webinar, we are always keen on improving performance, and this time we found a couple of things to make the EMAT calculation faster. So I will leave out the EMAT functionality today, but we will pretty much look into all those other functions and have a couple of things to show. So let's go to my Business Central again, and let's do the first thing. Let's change the table definition. So you do this from the VAPS setup, and in the VAPS setup and the actions and the configuration, you can now define the tooltip, which you could have done before, and the bar label, so the text that you see on the bar, but you can also define now what is displayed in the left-hand table. I do this, and I want to change the setting on the machine center level. And on the machine center level, currently, when I look at the VAPS, it just shows the name. Let me actually show you. Sorry for that. Let me quickly go out here. Let me create a new simulation. Let me delete this one. This was for testing purposes. Let me create a new simulation. In the production order view, yeah, that's fine. Production order view, and then we can work with the simulation later on. And if I view this simulation, and it's pretty much the view that we had with the with the VPS a couple of minutes ago. I talked about this loading dialog that we added with the performance release a couple of weeks ago, and here now we have the work center groups, the work centers, the machine centers. We have the standby resource, and here you see actually I applied a filter that I only see my work centers, no longer the machine centers, and they have their own capacity. And I will talk to this about this in a minute. So what I wanted to show you is that now we have here on all those machine centers just the information of the machine center name. And if I want to have additional information here, then or other information, then I can do this from the VAPS setup, actions, configurations table. On the machine center, I not only want to see the name, but I want to see different information. So I make sure whatever I put in a space here, and then whatever. Anyway, I put in bracket, and then I say, actually, I'm interested in information from the machine center, and the information that I'm interested in is the efficiency. We will talk about the efficiency in a minute. So let's add the efficiency here, and then just to make this this picture complete, I have the other bracket here. So now I have the name, a space, a bracket, efficiency bracket. So let's do this. Close there, close here. View the simulation again. And let it load. Let it load. And now you see here, we have the name on the machine center. We have the space, we have the bracket, and we have the efficiency with the bracket. So all my machines are set up with efficiency of 100. One is set up with the efficiency of 50. This is welding number 5. Okay, so this is just like I showed you now that you can change what is displayed here. I made it on the work center that I have a blank a pipe, a blank, and then the efficiency. And here I made it with a bracket just to see that you have options in terms of formatting and options into which data you put in there. So pretty flexible, so you can configure this as you want. As we're talking, as we looked at welding and we looked at the efficiency, I actually have, let me change the view very quickly, view color mode. On the status view, I have one planned production order here. Yeah, here is the guy that starts on welding 4 and then continues on drilling 1 and so on and so on. You see the routing. I scheduled it before the webinar, so it's no longer on the standby resource, but it's already added to the schedule. And I have it now on a machine center with the efficiency of 100. So now what happens if I, for some reason, move it to a machine center with efficiency of 50? Well, then of course it will require longer time. So although the work time and the non-work time are the same for both machine centers, because I'm having an efficiency of 50% here, I'm only getting like half of the work done compared to my welding 4. So if I move it from here, we take the efficiency into account, it gets longer. So double the time needed, and then the rest is pushed out. So with this, I hopefully could show you, and then you see this actually got moved as well because I moved this out. So as we take it here into account on the machine center, it works likewise on the work center. So when we do manual scheduling like I did now, or when we do automatic scheduling, we take the efficiency into account so that the length of the bar always utilize the capacity utilization. Talking about the capacity utilization, we always used to have the histogram, which shows you the degree of the capacity utilization. And you see here, it actually says capacity 0.5 because I have a capacity of 1 on the machine center and efficiency of 50%. So 1 times 50% is a capacity of half. And we see it is fully loaded that day. It's fully loaded that day, fully loaded that day, and partly loaded, or fully loaded at the beginning of the day, not loaded here. So this is a histogram by day. This is how we used it to have. Nobody took care about the histograms in the past because we always were working with the capacity of the assumption of a capacity of 1. So if there was a bar, the capacity was utilized. If there was no bar, the capacity was not utilized. So what the hell should the histogram tell me? Well, now remember, we work with a capacity of larger 1. So on assembly, as we saw before, I have a capacity of 4 here, efficiency 100%. So I have a capacity of 4. And now the histogram makes sense, right? And by the way, I don't know why this is overloaded because I have 1 on standby. So the good thing here is actually you see the planned capacity utilization as you have in the machine, and I have additional demand for my assembly work center, which is on standby. So you see, if I add what is currently scheduled to my work center plus what I need to schedule here, I will not be able to do this. This will overload my capacity here at the beginning of that day. So now with having a capacity and supporting final capacity larger 1, the histogram also in the VAPS makes pretty much sense. So now I can see when my assembly department is fully utilized, when it's partly utilized, what the utilization is. And so as you know it from the VPS, or as you might know it from the VPS, we actually can change the capacity aggregation unit. So I go to capacity aggregation. This is now also new. This is like a side effect of working with final capacity larger 1. I can say now I'm showing the histogram by second. I can also look at it by day, right? So then I see, okay, on that day here, I'm not utilized because I have a lot of time here in the afternoon. So I see if I stay a bit with the mouse here, it takes a while. I have 1920 minutes available that day. I have loaded 1594, so I have still some free capacity here that day, the Tuesday, the 21st of February. I'm completely full, or almost completely full. I'm full, almost full on that. I'm fully full on that Friday. I have some capacity on this Thursday, a bit of capacity on this Wednesday, a lot of capacity on that Monday. So now with this new functionality, this histogram, especially by day, makes super sense on me. So if I have a capacity larger 1, I would always have this histogram on, or I would definitively look at this very regularly because it gives me very useful information. Of course, we can show it also by week. It makes more sense for the midterm capacity planning and by month. But I kind of recommend have it on by day. If you have a capacity larger one, it gives you a lot of useful information. So talking about useful information, now I have this information, but now I want to schedule. So I have this production order here, which is on the standby resource. So we know what is from on a standby resource is something that was added to Business Central or changed in Business Central and has to get added to the schedule. So now let's actually change the color again to the production order view where we have the production order specific color, because then we have a bit more contrast. So I have this orange production order here now that I need to add to the schedule from standby. And of course, one of the things to one of the scheduling instrument to add a production order to schedule is to say apply routing. So I say right mouse click, apply routing. And then it looks within all machine and work centers defined in the routing. It looks for the earliest available capacity. And then it schedules there. So I say apply routing. Then it finds the gap here. It finds the gap here. It finds the gap here. Then my assembly line is pretty full. The earliest available capacity actually here to fill this fully in without changing the schedule was here. And then we can go to quality control and we see actually if we would do it like this, the required due date would be missed. So now what can I do? Can I shift things around? I need to make this thing finished in time. So, but if I move this, then most likely some of my other production orders will get late. Tricky thing. So I see that there is a question. I will look at this in a minute, but let me just finish this thought. So now, while I am assessing this, let me actually look at the production order and let me look at the routing line that goes to my assembly work center. So when I drill down here, I go to line, to the routing, and if I look at my routing line that goes to the assembly, it says concurrent capacity 1. So currently, I'm only using one of the available 4 capacities that I have in my work center assembly. So now, how would my schedule change if I not would utilize only one capacity of my work center assembly at a time, but if I would utilize 2 at the same point of time? Then, well, I changed the concurrent capacity from 1 to 2. Definitively, this is a change to Business Central data. So this change, this new information is not part of my current simulation. So it got outdated because Business Central, my Business Central data got got changed. So I need to update my simulation. Everything that got changed in this production order now moves back to standby because it requires some new scheduling. But everything that was scheduled before, like the one on the saw and so on, this will remain there. So now this got changed. It got back to standby, right? Because now I have a concurrent capacity of 2. I say I want to utilize 2 of my assembly capacity at the same point of time. The rest stayed here. And now I can say, okay, actually, because I sensed if I'm done here, it seems that I have some available capacity here and sufficient available capacity in parallel here. So just let's see from here, if I say from here, apply routing. Okay, then it moves here because now it utilizes 2 times the capacity. Then there was a free slot on quality control, and now we are no longer late, but now we are finishing in time because now with this assembly operation, we are moving 2 times of my capacity. So if I would move it here, you see actually the histogram loaded at this day to have, because this production order line utilizes 2 capacities of the 4 capacities that I have on this work center simultaneously. So with this, if on an assembly line, or if this on this assembly work center, I would have 4 workers. With all operations here, I would always have 1 worker assigned to it, but with setting the concurrent capacities to 2, I now would have 2 workers working on it. And while I have 2 workers working on it, like the time that I needed from start to finish is only half, so it could fit in here, and hence this could fit in here again with concurrent capacity of 1. And so now let's just assume for a second what the combination of machine center capacity, work center capacity, machine center efficiency, work center capacity, and concurrent capacity, what kind of scheduling horsepower it gives to you. And I'm really, really proud of the development team that they made this happen, and that we can get a new product out to you tomorrow or early next week that allows you this way of scheduling I just showed you, taking into account work center setting, machine center setting, work center capacity, machine center capacity, work center efficiency, machine center capacity, and concurrent capacity. And now I finished the thought. Let me look at this question that came up. There were actually 2 questions at least. Great that you challenged me, guys. The first question is, support for capacity larger one is a great, superb news. Thanks for this. Long-awaited features are finally here. Yes, and I bet I have been waiting for them longer than you have. But this means that center head quantity production order routing line parameter is also supported. Yes. And what with lot size parameter from production order routing line, this is also supported. So VAPS takes into account when it so the center head parameter was always supported, or was supported since I would say a couple of releases back, the lot size parameter from the production routing line as well. And now we have also the capacity larger one. There is the one thing with the center head quantity from the production order. If you want to use this, I highly recommend that you watch the webinar that I did on how we build with the how we do with the deal with the center head quantity. And in the VAPS setup, you actually have to say consider center head. So this needs to get switched. By default it is switched off because initially we didn't support the center head. So by default this is switched off. If you want to consider it, you need to switch it on here once, and then it will be considered. And we did really, really fancy test cases with center head, with machine center capacity, work center capacity, concurrent capacity, efficiency, and this all worked very well in the end. So I hope that this answered your question. There is another question, but if you want to multi-move operations that are not all next to each other, I think this was related to the VPS. Well, then you can just select them with control and then left click, control and left click, control and left click. In the VAPS, we have no multi-select, multi-move yet. This was a feature that we built for the VPS. Initially, we consider getting this over to the VAPS, but there is not yet a decision on this because we have much more implications here due to the automatic scheduling. So we will think about this and then give you an update in one of the later webinars. So I hope that this answered these questions. These were some of the big things that we built. So now let me go to some of the subtle things. Let me change the color mode so that I get more contrast back to the status view. You see we have this symbol icon here, and this is something we introduced last time, so that our last release, so that when somebody leaves a comment on the so if somebody, this is on turning, so somebody on the production order line would go here on the production order line, not on the component line, sorry, on the production order line would go here and leave a comment, related comment, then a symbol like this would show up. So last time we had this symbol showing up, and then people told us, okay, this is cool that we see if somebody leaves a comment at the production order routing line, because it is actually important to know that purchasing says that timely delivery of item ABC is at risk. So may I need to reschedule it or not? So it is good that I see that this comment is there, but you see what it took me to get to here. I had to double click the production order. Then the production order card opened. I had to click lines. I had to click routing. I had to select the routing. I had to click related. I had to click comment. And then there was, I think it was 7 clicks. And we made just getting to this spot, we made it easier. So in case I see that there is this symbol, I can do a right mouse click, and then I get the context menu. And then at the bottom here of the context menu, I see now show additional information. And I see actually, hey, there are comments. And then I can click here and boom, I'm here. So I think it's 2 clicks, right? Or 3, but it's just much faster. And the interesting thing is, I do not know. So now I see, hey, here is a comment. Here is some information I may need to look at. So right mouse click, show additional information, and then comments. And you see, you can also leave information about tools or personal or quality measure information. Actually, hey, here is an icon as well. So this tells me there are actually also quality measure information here. So somebody, and maybe this was me as a scheduler, put in the information, hey, visual inspection required from all angles. So if this comes from a turning machine, we need to do some visual inspection. And like I would say, this is information that is not relevant for the scheduler, but this would be information given by the scheduler. And then this should show up on the operator screen in the shop floor solution. But we see now not only that there is a comment on the production order routing line, but we also see on the right mouse click which type of comment this is. And then from here, you have the fast path to the place where the comment is actually left, so that you save a few clicks. Then we talked about the grayed out, finished operations, same here. So they are finished, so they are grayed out, so that they don't disturb less. And I quickly see, I quickly see now on one glance what is finished, or better see what is finished and what is not finished. Then just for convenience reasons, sometimes it is good if you have a simulation, you want to compare stuff or whatever, you don't want to create a new simulation because you made a lot of settings. So then it might be good just to copy the simulation. So you can copy it from here. And then you have the same simulation again with all the same data. It's that copy of the simulation that I created before. So it can be convenient to just copy what you built before rather than to make all the settings again. So this is small stuff. The last big thing, and I will only touch this briefly here, is the data filter. So let's actually go back to the simulation. Let's view the simulation. And you see, I have some production orders here, and you will see that I have some production orders here that actually go to outsource to a subcontractor. Like this brown production order here, and there's also a comment, but anyway, so this brown production order here goes to an outsourcer. So it might be the case that whatever, I might want to filter out some stuff. I don't want to see it in my schedule. Like I don't want to get like disturbed from everything that goes to subcontracting, or I have 2 different really departments in my company. I have plan A and plan B, and the person scheduling plan A shouldn't see what happens in plan B and vice versa. And there are also no overlaps from ruling. So it makes sense to define a data filter that the person scheduling plan A only sees plan A, and the person scheduling plan B only sees plan B. This is typically achieved with the data filter. So now what happens, and this is what I wanted to show you, what happens if I define a data filter that kind of takes out, that filters out some operations that belong to production orders that have operations on machine and work centers that are not filtered out. So this brown production order, let me just double click here. It's a production order number 101077. And let's filter out the subcontracting. So now let's actually create a new simulation where we take a data filter. Let me take a data filter, select from view list. I say, okay, I want to create a new data filter, no subcontracting. And I need to define this. I need to edit the filter, and the data filter would say, okay, I only look at machining and at finishing, but I don't look at subcontracting. So now I apply this data filter, no subcontracting, the rest is as it was before. I just see I have a different data filter applied, the rest is as I had before. So now I look at this simulation. And you see now it's just machining, finishing, no subcontracting anymore here. If you look very, very carefully at your schedule, now you will see that there are also some production orders here or operations that are somewhat grayed out. And remember, we had this production order 101077 that where it had one operation, one production or routing line that went to the subcontractor. So let's quickly search for this production order. Best way to search, by the way, is not from here and from here, but best way to search is here from this magnifying glass, 101077. Here is my production order. I look at this and then it is blinking, so it is highlighted, but it is grayed out. And it is grayed out because we have the first routing step on milling, then it goes to welding. After welding, and you see here again operations that have links, right? So after welding, it goes to the subcontracting, then it comes back, it goes to assembly, and then it goes to quality control. So if I'm selecting a production order where operations of the routing were filtered out by the data filter, then if I select those production orders, I see all the dependencies. So I see this belongs to that production order, and these two guys belong to the production order, but something is missing in the middle, and that something is missing in the middle is what is sent to the subcontractor. So as soon as this happens, and this was also huge effort in programming and lot of brain power needed in the development. If an operation is missing from a production order due to the data filtering, then we gray this out, and now those operations you cannot get scheduled because we do not exactly know what was scheduled, what was filtered out, and we do not exactly know how the capacity utilization is on those machine centers and work centers that got filtered out. And hence it makes no sense to reschedule this because we do not know which effects this has downstream to the work in machine centers that got filtered out. So data filter, super powerful thing, especially to further speed up performance so that you can load only those machine centers and work centers that you need to work with. I recommend to work with data filter only if you have clearly separated parts of your company, with one person being responsible for the one part and the other person being responsible for the other part. But if you apply the data filter and if you have overlaps, then be surprised that some of the productions might not only show incomplete, which is right, but that they are then also grayed out and cannot get scheduled because you don't see the full picture. And with this, this was a fast overview on most of the things we did with the VAPS. I left out everything we did with respect to the EMAT. So promise today that I will do, well, the next webinar I will do actually will be on EMAT setting, and then I will do another webinar where I have a use case where we make a deeper dive into what I call combined machine shop and job shop scheduling. So combined planning finite capacity one machines, and then plus like something like assembly or like welding, where you have more people savvy work, and then where your work centers with capacity of 10 or 15 or whatever. So I will build a more meaningful use case there. And these should be the next two webinars that are run. But for today, I think I gave you a good overview on what is going to come with the version that we send to Microsoft for AppSource verification tomorrow, which then hopefully should be available on AppSource Monday or Tuesday. And as soon as they are there, we will update the partner portals with the on-premise version of VPS, VAPS, and VJS for Business 121, 20, and 19, as I outlined before. And then we will push out also notification to you guys that these new products are available. And with this, If there are any further questions, you can ask them now, or if you don't want to ask questions here in public, then just send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn and send the question there. Whatever channel you use to ask a question, promise you will get an answer. With this, thank you very much. I hope that I will see some of you guys in 2 weeks in Hamburg in Germany for Directions EMEA. What I heard, that is going to be a huge event, a record-breaking event with already more than 2,500 people registered. So I will be there. We will run a booth there. I will have my ISV session where we'll talk about the VAPS, but I will also do a presentation on capable to promise and delivery time commitments. So if you are in Hamburg or if you come to Hamburg, please come by our booth, say hello, visit my sessions, or like figure out where we are in the evening. Then I definitively will pay you guys one or two beers, because we are in Hamburg in Germany. There should be a good supply of beers. And with this, thank you very much. Hopefully see you in Hamburg. If we don't see you in Hamburg, then take care and see you in one of our next webinars. Thanks and goodbye.